so the grades are suffering. They know more and they can perform well on a test, and I'll be curious to see how they do on the semester exam compared to last year, but the grades aren't there. They're not getting stuff done.
It's interesting, and so you brought up assessments, and it makes me wanna ask a little bit about the data and how, what sources of data are you using? How is it going with using data to design the instruction, maybe for some of the flexible grouping? And then also, talk to me a little bit about your experiences with conferencing with students maybe. How has that gone for any of you?
Dead silent.
Okay, so I'll talk because I love data, so I'll talk. We have been doing the data protocol with all of our comment assessments. We are using kind of formative assessments and checklists or exit tickets at the end of class that are really gearing the next day, like you need to go back and reteach, or you need to go to this station. We're kind of really setting up stations, or at least where they start through the data. One thing that I found that I read through the Texas Tech course that I found very interesting is that data, and this gave me a whole new perspective, and I sent this email out to everybody, data is not just looking at numbers and assessment. Data is having those conversations and finding out that a student doesn't have a computer at home. Well, that changes the entire way that I set up my class for them. And it sets up the way that they have to set up their own playlist, and we have to have those conversations with them. Data is also that they're on a band trip, knowing that they're on, they were doing band the whole first 6 weeks. It's knowing that a parent died or whatever. And so I'm trying to start to look at data differently, and that it's a whole child, not just numbers. And so I have started kind of doing something like setting up different stations and different playlists based on that, because I know that not every student can go home and do MIMBEAM all night. Not every student can go home and do no writing ink all night. And if they're not gonna prioritize those things, then sometimes I have to do it for them.
So how, some of the others, how have you been able to do any student conferencing, much student conferencing? How is that looking for you?
I would say, like, as far as the kind of data like what April's talking about, looking at the numbers and knowing what's going on in a kid's life and that, I'd say I'm pretty good at that. But as far as the student conferencing, with the lower level kids, it's like I can't get them to like set aside their needs long enough to really have what I would consider a good conversation with a student that would really help advance them into where they need to be. Things that I think I've designed or tweaked from what On Level's doing, so that they have something significant to do on their own, so that I can talk with another group. It's like they never will release enough to let me have that other group. So I end up doing a lot of them desk to desk to desk to talk to you about kind of what you're doing, rather than helping you make that connection of so what could have you done differently? Those kind of questions. So I would say on the other end of the scale, I don't feel like I'm very successful about that. I'll just be honest.
I haven't been either. I think again with my going around, I'm too much mama bear with them too, that I will have individual conversations as I walk around and talk to groups, but as for individual conferences, I think it's been few and far between so far.
I guess the best way that I've approached that consistently, aside from having conferences here and there throughout the year about their writing, is we have a weekly station rotation rubric that they fill out. And part of that rubric allows them to write a reflection and set a goal for themselves. So it's a conference, but it's almost in written form, and there's immediate feedback. I always make comments out to the side. So we do have sort of a written dialogue back and forth. I'd like to be able to expand that and have the time to have more one-on-one sit-down conversations. But at this point, that's the consistent interface that I have with my students.
Well, and along that same line, in the Canvas lessons, when I grade it, I can write a note, but the kids still, they're not intuitive about how to use the system. I'm showing them this, I'm showing them that, and they still don't automatically, they're like, wait, how do I do that again, Miss Jones, or where's that at? But because if they would look at that, they would have other, in addition, feedback besides my lovely face to tell them
Yeah.
what to do. But I like your idea of even having them write a reflective, goal or whatever at the end of the week. I could see where that would be beneficial.
I remembered that, Scott, when I was in your classroom. I thought that was a really powerful piece. Did Kate, by chance, share any experiences about what her experience is so far?
She writes that at this point, blended learning is going better than she expected. She's been able to forge strong bonds with her kids. And she says they're becoming responsible way earlier in the year than she anticipated.
With data and conferencing, the data I used at the beginning of the year was their star screener and their TELPAs. So I had one-on-one conferences with kids, hey, and I created a graphic organizer for them. This is what everything looks like, and I used our, each level of the TELPAs, so beginning and intermediate, all that, I showed them what it looked like on paper and a little ladder to show you this is where you are, we wanna build up. And that one conference on what your reading level is now, where should it be, how far can you go, this is the goal, physically seeing it, has been a day-to-day, oh, I didn't know that word yesterday, I'm gonna use it again today, or, you know, building up. And so we just recently took our star screener again, and we're gonna be sitting down to see, I'd say 90% of the kids advanced in their levels, and on their rubric for TELPAs, they're gonna see, am I using better words, or how am I now compared to where I was at the beginning of the year? And I've already had some conferences, and their eyes just light up, you know, when they get it, it's that light up, I got better, I know, I can see it, the scores show that I'm improving, and I mean, and that's using data the right way, I think.
I think so.
I think with, I don't know, I guess I'm like a fixer, so I don't really focus on a lot of the positive normally. I focus on the negative and how to fix it. So if you've ever read like my comments on an essay, it's usually, here's what you need to do different, not this was really great, because that's not my personality. But what I started to do, especially in pre-AP, they've done so many timed essays, I think at this point, they're getting the hang of it, and so I'm seeing a lot higher grades, and so this time around, I still wrote my comments on what to fix, but I've been calling students up who've actually done very well and talked to them about it, because I think for some of our kids who do really well, they don't ever really get to hear that. They see the grade and then that's it. And so I tried that, and it was interesting. Like they would go back and talk to their friends. Like I could kind of just hear they'd go back and talk to their friends about it. And so I'm gonna try, I think, to have more of those conversations. Still obviously talk to the kids who need that help, but to also focus on the kids who are doing a really good job, because we're asking them to do a lot. And I think for some of them, they're just compliant and they'll do what we ask, and I think that some of them are enjoying it, I hope so. But I think that they don't get to hear that a lot from their teachers, because we don't usually focus on those kids. And so I tried to, and it was just interesting to hear them have those conversations of, yeah, I did a good job, oh, I wasn't in trouble, or that wasn't bad, actually, you know, because that's unfortunately why we would call most kids up to our desk. And so I tried that, and it worked really well. And so I'm gonna try to view data and not just focusing on the low, but you know, what we do well, which our protocol helps us do also. But I think just with individual students,